Gee, Cass, this is some weird framing. Something's going on. You would be correct. Today we are joined by the back of Dr. Mr. the Husband's head to talk about death in Star Trek. This video made possible thanks to the continuing support of viewers, patrons, and PayPal pals like you. Thanks!
Well, that's kind of dark.
Yeah, but it's what the video is about, right? Kinda. Eventually. Sort of. Yeah, so this isn't the Beyond Order video that I was working on because several reasons. Part of it is Peterson is talking about sort of in the distilling away from Peterson thing that you have to do to get the useful life advice, the importance of art and creativity in your life. So been thinking about the importance of art in my life, as well as just flipping ahead to the next rule. If old memories still upset you, write them down carefully and completely. So just, it's sort of been in my head, sort of a coalescing of art and Star Trek. And the other thing is, it's like I was totally fine until we get to here, and then it's like, oh, I'm gonna cry.
Mm-hmm. It's only been 25 years?
It's only been 25 years. This is the 25th year that my dad's been dead. So doing the math, me in my early 40s, he's been dead over half my life. Also, this is his birthday month. We're filming this on 420, blaze it. He would have been 76 this year. So, yeah, it's time of year to think about him, I guess. So we got the importance of art. We've got sort of it being, my dad being at the forethought of my thoughts. And also, we'll talk about it in a bit, but been watching sort of reviews of Star Trek, Old Trek, New Trek, and just realizing how much a role Star Trek has had in my life, weirdly, because I wouldn't consider myself a Trekkie, but as we discovered, I know a fair bit of Trek. Star Trek.
To be fair, you know a fair bit of a lot that you've never engaged in seriously.
True. Yeah, it's talking about Pack Rat. He was complaining I stole one of his pens. But I don't know. It's just, I don't know if it's the probatism, like, because I'm not diagnosed, but like I've had the same breakfast for how many years now? And it's a weird breakfast. I'm not comfortable disclosing on the internet because I will be judged. It's that type of breakfast. And I've had the same dinner with slight variation for like 6 months now. So that plus tons of social things that in retrospect are like, duh.
But I mean, your brain has always been sticky in the sense that it always just, it's like that ball, that game with the ball.
Katamari Damacy?
Yeah, I don't know, but that's how your brain works. My brain does not work with it.
Yeah, he's able to just like, meh. And me, it's like, oh no, remember this thing that happened? Or just more fun, like, remember the Wikipedia entry you read on this movie that you're never going to watch, but now you know the plot and like twists and turns of it? I don't know why that's something that's interesting to me. It's just like, even if I'm not necessarily interested in watching something, I want to know how things are. And I think that's just sort of a social survival strategy too. What?
Interesting that you would say that.
Well, like when we did the escape room and then went out after, right? And all of your work friends were talking about like different TV shows or whatever, or movies. I could keep up and I could chime in and ask questions because I knew enough to have something interesting to say, whereas you're just like, not interested. I'm going to sit here with my beer and...
Yeah. Well, I snickered because I never would have thought there was a parallel, but that's like guys in sports, right? The stereotypical like
water cooler talk.
Yeah, the nerd that has to like, what happened in football this weekend? Let me study before I go to the water cooler.
Can you believe the ref's call?
I know.
On that play.
There's a skit about that somewhere. I've seen. Maybe it's 7 or something.
Yeah, but that referee, I'm sorry, the referee is just an idiot.
Yes, he was certainly the villain of the piece.
I want to say it was the British.
No, the Canadian one, maybe. I don't know.
Canadian? Oh, Kids in the Hall?
Maybe.
No, it was not Office Space. Oh my god, I can't believe I'm forgetting the name, by the cursed writer.
Did you see that ludicrous display last night?
Anyway.
Yeah, I think it was them. with the really nerdy guy who's also a cursed actor who shall not be named. For shame. Because we can't have anything nice. Rough outline. Like, this isn't scripted necessarily, but we have sort of worked out the idea flow to go through things. Just so you know what's coming. First little part, talk about, like, my dad set up his Trekkie cred and, like, my, I don't know, distance to it, or, like, my nerdy cred. Hello. Talk about the review channel stuff I've been watching, and then really get into the nitty-gritty discussion. Right? Roughly. Like, I have a lot of early childhood memories of Star Trek. Like, some of the early stuff was before The Next Generation was even cast, probably. The original Trek was on syndication late at night, and so my dad would watch it. Like, my mom would be at work because she worked late shifts because they handed me off instead of going to a babysitter, and my dad had a 9 to 5, whatever. So it'd be my dad. I was supposed to be in bed because I was like 5, probably. And he'd fall asleep, as dads do, watching TV. But my dad was a Coke addict in the Coca-Cola sense, which I learned I had to be very careful in how I said that, because I said that once at school and got, like, weird looks from the teacher that, like, oh, that's short for something else. Good to know. He, like, the stereotypical computer science guy. That sort of thing. He would go through basically, like, a 2-liter a day. Which is not good. But he'd have, like, whatever was left at the end of the day sitting there next to him while he fell asleep. And so I'd sneak out while he was snoring, because sometimes he would wake up, as dads do.
From Parker Brothers.
And hide behind, like, the coffee table so he couldn't see me next to the couch, and, like, sneak drinks out of the bottle, and then, like, make sure I got back into bed before my mom got home. Doing that, I would see some Star Treks. And, like, the memorable one, of course, is the one with, like, the Vulcan reproductive ritual thing. Because, like, what's going on? The normally chill, rational guy is attacking Kirk with a Q-tip. Like, what's going on? Yeah, I wish you could have seen his face.
Q-tip.
It was like American Gladiator sort of thing. Like the big Q-tips. Maybe it was bladed, I don't know. So there was that episode and many others that, you know, like, when they're discussed, like, oh yeah, no, I saw that one. I vaguely remember that. And some of the silliness, like, it wasn't silliness, but like half black, half white people as like a comment on racism, because there was like the people who were black on this side, white on this side, were angry at the people who were black on this side, white on this side. And it was like, I don't remember the exact details, but it was like an allegory for racism in 60s, 70s America. In the face you're giving me again.
Interesting plot.
I mean, it wasn't just Kirk going around dicking down all the ladies he found.
Yeah, I mean...
What?
I have 0 to contribute to Star Wars. So Kirk...
Star Trek.
Yeah.
Oh, also, we thought it'd be funny. Don't show your toes. We don't give those for free.
You can blur them.
No. He is wearing Star Trek pants, or damn it! Star Wars cozy pants. Because this is my office. We are professional, so he's wearing the office attire. If you're curious, I'm wearing beaver pants. They have little coffee cups. So, sort of Canadian without being overtly Canadian.
But Kirk is William Shatner?
Yes.
Always? Except maybe in a movie or something they've cast somebody else?
We can get there when we talk about old Trek and new Trek.
But you said basically this was before new Trek.
Oh my god, we have so much to discuss apparently.
Later.
Anyway, so my dad would have it on syndication. He watched it in the original run, I'm sure much. I honestly don't know how my mom feels about Star Trek.
I was going to ask that too, yeah.
Because it's like, and this is one of the things I want to talk about, is like, again, with the probitism, I sort of feel like people get possession of things. So like, Halo is yours. Even though I introduced our friend to Muse, I kind of feel like it's hers. It's her band. Like, I still love listening to Muse, but in my head, it's like her thing. Ghost is mine. Queens of the Stone Age is mine. Mass Effect is mine. You enjoy it. You enjoy it plenty. You haven't played it nearly as much as me, but that's not the point. Like,
I haven't played anything as much as you.
Halo. You've played Halo more.
Because I've played it a couple times through.
Right.
Yeah.
But it just, I sort of assign ownership of things. And so, like, Star Trek was my dad's. And my mom, like, we would watch Star Trek on TV, and we had one TV. So it was like, who gets the TV? Or, you know, it was sort of time shared. And we also didn't have cable, so it was like the basic, whatever you would get through antenna sort of thing. And so, like, Saturday afternoon was The Next Generation. And I think it was on Sunday. It was like Highlander and Renegade and like Walker Texas Ranger. There was like a block with those. So like those were dedicated for my dad. We were watching those. And if I wanted to not just be in my room entertaining myself, unlike some people are happy to do, I was watching whatever it was. Whereas you, Mr. Legos. It's a shame that didn't pan out for you. Benefit you in your work, sort of.
It did.
I was being sarcastic, facetious.
That is a joke.
Right.
Star Trek was my dad. I don't know my mom, because she goes into like period drama, romance, like she loves whatever series about the time travel thing with the guy.
Doctor Who?
Huh?
Doctor Who?
No, she also likes Doctor Who. No, it's like thing that's on now. Like she has all the books and all that. Your coworker mentioned it at some point during that chat. I forget what it's called. Star Trek was always sort of my dad's, and it was his thing, and it was very much his thing. Like at some point we went back to his parents' house to finally take all the rest of his boxes, because that's the thing where you just leave boxes at your parents' house until they're like, get this fucking gone or it's going in the trash. So in his collection were these Viewmaster things. Like, I mean, you know Viewmaster. But he had some for Star Trek. And it was like stills from the episodes that you would like click through and see. Yeah, you're shaking your head. I know. It's silly.
Maybe it was for you and you just didn't realize it. He wanted you to be a Trekkie.
No, he bought that before I was born.
Oh.
Like this was in his parents' house and had been left there like.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I guess it's as close as you can get if you couldn't record them, because VCRs didn't really roll out.
I'm surprised there isn't like a book, though, or something you could get with photos.
Yeah, but
that would be nicer than a Viewmaster. Oh,
3D.
Garbage.
So he died when I was 16. Yeah. Or, yeah, just...
I was probably 15.
Oh, yeah, no. Yeah, I was 16 and I turned 17 that year when he died, because he died a couple months before. Like the month before my birthday. So I was 16 when he died. So I have no idea. I can infer that he was probably in like IRC or IRC chat rooms about Star Trek.
Maybe, yeah.
Oh, I'm sure he was.
At work.
He was a systems administrator for a big school district. That's kind of garbage, but you know, he loved his job. He loved parts of his job. Part of that is he had access to computers when otherwise we probably wouldn't have been able to afford it. And I'm sure he was in chat rooms or like the little internet forum thingies, proto ones before there were pictures and avatars and oldie smoky days when it was just text.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how hardcore he went in on the fandom, or if he had to have known. But I mean, I learned how to do this at an early age. It was critical for me to understand how to live long and prosper. I should have asked you what that thing was. Oh well.
I know this Trek, but I didn't know what it meant.
Yeah, I could have asked you. What species is that associated with?
Spock's species, whatever he is.
And what are they?
Vulcan? No. What?
Yeah, no, Vulcan. You got it. Good job. We did kind of go through this recently.
Some study tips, yeah.
I have notes. You don't know I did this.
No.
While you're having your nap, your power nap today.
Good.
Wrote down notes. I know that Spock was his favorite in a way where like he kind of related to him, because the probatism probably came from his sides more strongly than my mom's side. He was eccentric. Like, oh, definite Trekkie cred here. One time, we were driving home from eating out, like at a restaurant, and I was old enough to be big, although I stopped growing at like 11. I was sitting in the back, and I was sitting behind my mom and annoying her, because it was a Mitsubishi Eclipse 2-door, and so I had to like climb into the back, but I could reach the reclining thing on the seat, so I was just like messing with her. And my dad was getting distracted driving, got pulled over by the cops. One of the eccentricities of my dad is he was a gun nut. A lot of guns. So you get pulled over. Officer, just so you're aware, I'm loaded. I mean, of course he phrased it differently. But I think in part to torture us, or to punish us for getting him pulled over, because he had his pride too about that. He was a safe-ish driver. He was fast. Anyway. He started showing the cop his collection that he had, and that just so happened to include one of those Klingon knives with like the thing to make the pop out, which the cop was very amused by. He just kept that in the car. I don't know why. We also had a Highlander sword, but you know.
There can be only one.
God, your dad missed his time.
Yeah, my dad absolutely missed his time.
If he was our generation, he would be so much into these things.
He would be into things, but as we'll get to later, I think it would be hard on some levels.
It would have broke him, kind of?
Well, like the commercialization and mainstreamification, it'd be hard for him. Next Generation, we would watch that. Voyager, we would tape that because my dad frequently wouldn't be home for it. Or no, Voyager, Deep Space Nine was before Voyager. Sorry, my bad. So we watched all those, but we also watched Babylon 5. And that means nothing to you, but it will mean something to some of the people watching this at least.
Was that a TV series?
Yes, it was a TV series.
Oh, good.
It was a grittier Star Trek, kind of. And also, like, not so far in the future.
What was that one with the spaceship that was alive that you liked?
I don't know. I think you're talking about Farscape?
It was kind of funny. Campy. The spaceship was alive.
I mean, the spaceship was alive in Farscape. I'm not remembering other ones.
I don't think it was Farscape.
Oh, you're talking about Lex.
Lex, yeah.
Lex. How many of you guys know about Lex?
I am the Lex. I am the most powerful weapon of destruction in the two universes.
I was designed for love.
I love writing poems.
But that is a good segue into like the next thing of like my relation to Star Trek.
Okay.
Because like, as I said, Star Trek was sort of my dad's thing. So we are kids of the 80s and 90s, where it was very not cool to be passionate about things.
I don't know if it was location, age, which it was.
Like a confluence of things.
Yeah, because maybe, East Coast, it was okay to be a nerd, or...
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I just think about, like, the whole Gen X reality bites, like, disconnected, life sucks.
Kind of the
whatever.
grunge thing, too.
Yeah. So, I remember, I think the first thing I really got teased about being, like, excited about, was dance. Like, oh, you do dance? That's so ew. Gross. You want to get good at something with your body? Ugh. Like, sports were permissible, though, right?
Yeah. All the bullies played sports, so...
Yeah. I should mention, in the context of things, he is 6'2", and, like, whatever now.
A unit?
He is a unit. A big enough unit that an armed robbery happened where we went to grad school, and they sized him up and kept driving and hit, like, an engineering undergrad. which is good because you had like 2 cameras with you and like a bunch of like your laptop.
Yeah, with no backup of my thesis at the time, like it would have been like a no. I don't. Yeah, no. I mean, you're gonna have to shoot me because I'm not rewriting my thesis.
or that. But anyway, so I was picked on about dance, and so it was very clear, like, and also to interrupt myself, I think part of it was also because I was the smart kid, which was fine. I was fine with it. Like, I knew I wanted a PhD because Dr. Indiana Jones, I'm getting a doctor attached to my name. I have great motivations for doing things. And maybe because I was like the smart kid, I was an acceptable target. And so they were going to do what they could because I was not the biggest in my class a lot of the time, but I was like bigger. So they couldn't physically bully me. So they would mentally.
No kid is safe from that.
No kid's safe from teasing. But it's just like, oh, you're different, gotta knock you down. And so it's like, okay, if I'm getting picked on about dance, like, I know the jokes that are made about Star Trek. I'm not publicly admitting that I've watched this show, that I know what's going on. No. That's a death sentence. Because I'm pretty sure there were kids in my class who were like, oh, Star Trek. And yeah, relentless. So there was no way in hell. I learned to be observant about what I shared and what I was interested in. So like Highlander, no, nerdy as shit. The Matrix, when that came out, although we were dating by then, but it was interesting to see how mainstream popular that was. Because that was geeky and nerdy as shit. In the best way possible.
Yeah, only if you really thought about it.
It was anime, manga inspired on like the framing of the shots and the time ramping.
Yeah, but it was also just like
philosophy.
Cool.
It was also very cool. It was very 90s.
Yeah, surface level was just very cool. So I think if you didn't think about the actual plot, it was
just action.
Yeah, it was a Marvel movie almost.
Before Marvel. Or no, Blade was before, huh? Yeah, Blade was before The Matrix. Mm-hmm. So, I guess Marvel does get to take some credit there. The first black superhero that people forget. So I was very judicious in what I shared, but that was different with you when we started dating. Because I remember, like, oh, we have to expose each other to each other's things to get to know each other better. And so the things you were sharing with me were movies like Major Pain, Don't Be a Menace to South Central While Drinking Your Juice in the Hood. You know, stuff like that. Things I was sharing your way. Like, I think the first movie I made you watch, do you remember?
Made me watch?
Yeah.
No.
Blade Runner.
Okay.
Something else that was, like, interesting here, because I was allowed to see a lot of movies, but they never let me watch Blade Runner until I was, like, well into my teens and able to just rent it myself. Because they would rent it. Like, my dad really liked the director's cut, which, good, because the theatrical version's garbage. But they'd rent it, and I'd see the cover, and like, it looks so cool. I want to watch this. It sounds cool, like Blade Runner. It's a cool title. Has nothing to do with anything, but it's a cool title. They wouldn't let me watch it. I could see Die Hard 3 in the theater, but I couldn't watch Blade Runner. Okay, so the thing that's going to transition us into the next chunk is to just say that I'm only really interested in Star Trek as like a second order thing. So first order is I would watch all of it. The episodes, the movies, and like really get into it.
Lore, yeah.
Read the wikis, like understand it personally. Not interested. I don't think it's because it's like my dad's in my head, just meh. Like Mass Effect, sure. Blade Runner, whatever. Like, I have IPs I'm interested in, and just for whatever reason, Star Trek doesn't spark that joy or passion in me that those do. As such, second order, sure. I'd like watching people who know what they're talking about and have insight into the series and like the lore, the philosophical interpretations, like all of that. Sign me up. Like, sort of the same with a lot of like some genres of horror. Amanda the Jedi, YMS, like other people talk about it, like interesting. I can see how that's like an allegory for whatever, a metaphor for whatever. I don't necessarily want to watch it myself because, I can get 30-minute version, Cliff Notes, sort of digested for me instead of spending like the 2 hours or whatever and maybe it bouncing off me. That leads us to the main channel that I've been getting all of my Star Trek stuff from, which is getting its own little introduction here because some people view them as problematic. So this is Red Letter Media, and I'm a fan of their stuff. It's interesting to see coming into it. Only in the past couple years I haven't really heard about them, which is funny because I knew about Dick the Birthday Boy from like Cursed Family Pictures or whatever, which is Rich Evans from Red Letter Media.
Did you like steal my old family photographs? Is there like an album of mine in your possession? This is creepy.
I think part of why they're perceived as problematic by some is people like the quartering.
If you don't know who the quartering is but want to make your life that little bit worse, a video exists.
But what you may not know is that Jeremy has a problem with me.
This is one of the biggest idiots that I've ever come across, so congratulations.
Our fans periodically like cycle into and out of it. They do talk a lot of shit in a lot of ways and like poke fun of things, but you can tell they're poking fun. It's like the Colbert Report, where like if you can't see that it's satire, you're gonna see it as sincere.
I'm very excited about this.
Very cool.
It sounds very cool.
Very cool.
And I think people like the quartering see their satire as sincere and thinking that they agree with him on like social justice, feminism. Editing cast popping in here to add something that escaped me during filming. Some related factors here might be that they're a channel that's been around for a long time, like over a decade at this point, and they're allowed to grow and change as creators. Their stuff early into their channel was more edgy than it is now, but they've grown and matured, and that's good. But maybe more important for this is they might be viewed by some as anti-woke because they are critical of many of the movies or moves that Hollywood does. But if you actually get into the reviews, they're not criticizing the inclusion of women or minority groups or progressive ideology. They're criticizing the rainbow capitalism or very cynical inclusion of these things just as marketing or good PR or just not sincere motivation to do it. And as such, it tends to be done in a really sloppy, bad manner. Fair.
Yeah.
And another thing to just touch on with Red Letter Media is I imagine if they could go back and do it again, they'd handle it differently. Because they used to have women hosts join them on like Best of the Worst or whatever. But some of their fandom is toxic as shit. Like, and still bad. And talking about, this shrill harpy is tearing into the guys and how dare she. Or, I can't stand looking at her face. She's wearing too much makeup. She's not wearing enough. She needs to lose weight. Like, just gross misogynistic shit from the internet. We're talking videos from like 10, 12 years ago. So we're pre-Gamergate, where a lot of YouTube and the internet was like really building up that like gross energy towards women on the internet. And I think their moderation strategy at the time was just ignore it. Don't give it air. Whatever. We're not going to address it. We're just gonna ignore it. And that probably backfired because the women who were showing up on the show were getting that sort of whatever. I could see them like, I don't want to come back. I don't want to be in front of the camera. If this is the energy that's coming, I'm good. I'm good. And maybe as a consequence or an independent decision, the Red Letter Media guys are very, very private about their private lives, which I get. You get to see a pixelated version of the back of his head because I don't want us to be found. I definitely get it. Especially when I get people like, you don't deserve to have skin. I don't want people knowing where I live. So yes, that's all we're talking about with that. Well, I say that, and there's just one last little thing. In general, I would say that I think their hearts are in the right place, even if their language might sometimes not be the best. I always think about the Patton Oswalt little joke. I think in the wake of, I think it was before Trump was elected. Like, it was after Obama. Well, he was basically saying that, like, you know, you can't just go off of the language somebody's using as a metric for, like, where they are. Because you could have somebody who uses the perfect terms with the most hate in their heart, or you can have somebody who generally means well and is accepting, but kind of using outdated language. You know? Not that language can't be hurtful, but, you know, people can learn, especially if their heart's in the right place. And also, speaking of Patton Oswalt, who I think most people are generally pretty fond of, he was a guest on Red Letter Media. He lost the will to live in one of their episodes, like,
Pat's not saying anything. I think we broke him.
Are you broken?
Are we starting?
Yeah.
These movies are all horrible. I hate film now. Thank you.
Oh no.
This won't come off fine. I wanted to have always been dead. That's how I felt. I wanted to have always been dead.
He wasn't prepared.
He was, well, they also had, like, I think it was like a legendarily bad one. Because it was Plinketto. They dropped the ball. And they tried to do Ratatouille, like the Ratatouille knockoff. And he's like, I'm gonna get sued. You can't do this to me. I've been watching the Red Letter Media, and I had actually steer cleared of the Star Trek ones, because they talk about, like, some of the newer Trek stuff and also dip into the older Trek periodically. It's like, I don't care. But then, you know, I'd watched, like, most of the other stuff, so then I looped back through to the Star Trek stuff, and it gave me warm fuzzies. And so that's sort of at the heart of this video. However many minutes in. They recently, like, I think their last upload was talking about the original Star Trek movie with Mike and Rich Evans, and watching it, and it's like, oh my god, no, yeah. My dad borrowed a projector, like an old school projector from work, for us to watch the VHS release of the original Star Trek movie.
At home?
At home. Do you know an OG projector? No, that's you just pantomime like a 33 millimeter or whatever, 38. I do film. No, like, it had a red bulb, a green bulb, and a blue bulb. And we projected it on one of the walls in the living room.
Why was that better than a TV?
Why do we have a projector instead of a TV?
I don't know. I prefer a TV.
It's so much better. You started it.
Back then when TVs were big, to have a big TV. Now they're easy.
He borrowed a projector from work so that we could watch Star Trek, the original motion picture, on a wall in our house.
Did you make popcorn?
Probably. So they're talking about the original movie, and it's like, warm fuzzies, because I remember this, but I didn't understand it because I was so small. And just them talking about a lot of the Next Generation, because that's probably the most deepest Trek I experienced. Because it was on a lot, and in syndication, one bio break later.
Yep.
And a refill of YouTube appropriate tasty beverage. Of course. We would never, on this channel, do anything outside of advertiser-friendly guidelines. You haven't watched the just Star Trek TV show whatever videos. I have not subjected you to that.
Tribbles.
Oh, I was talking about the Red Letter Media, but you are correct. I did make you watch the Tribbles episode.
That's the extent of what I've seen, and the whatever people cut out and show as, you know, clips of, like I've seen the clip of Kirk fighting that stupid lizard. Because it's been memed to hell, right? Because it's so terrible. I'm just saying that is the context in which I have seen Star Trek, largely.
On Red Letter Media, I haven't made you watch them going into the TV shows and stuff.
No.
Like, that's just been me after your sleep. But we did watch together them doing, like, the trivia shows, where it was, like, Rich Evans hosting, and then Mike versus Jay, because that's funny, and I should start my timer.
Did they not do Evans versus... No, they didn't. It was only Jay, huh?
Yeah, no, they did do versus each other. No, I'm sorry. Jay hosted. I've got it backwards. We're going to redo
Jay
that.
hosted the first one?
We are... Okay, hold on.
Hold
on.
Well,
we have our things screwed up. So I'm apparently not that much of a Red Letter Media diehard to know. Because I know Rich and Jay... Or no, not Jay. Rich and Mike have faced off. I don't know if I made you watch that one because it wasn't as funny.
I've seen it, but
you saw Mike versus Jay.
Yeah.
Where they were like playing for charity and the dodo is going to be rejuvenated or whatever, which is funny since they're trying to do that with the whatevers, and it's like, oh my god. We watched the trivia episodes. It's funny because they bring Jay on, or they refer to Jay, who's like one of the other guys, as like an example of what the average person knows about Star Trek outside of the fandom.
The writers know as much about Star Trek as Jay does. Okay? Jay knows that Data was on Star Trek. So Jay thinks that Data and Picard were best friends. The V'ger cloud, it measures...
My God, over 82 AUs in diameter. Must be something incredible inside there generating it.
And
which is insanely big.
You know what an AU is.
Yeah, it's just between the Earth and the Sun.
It's nice to talk to a fellow peer who understands things.
And you are very much a Jay, especially with the poofy brown hair.
I know probably less than the average person, but yeah.
You think? So after I watched one of the episodes where they were talking about Jay as like exemplary of what Paramount is making shows for now, the people who don't know Trek, and they were like quizzing him because he was filming, like, what do you know about Star Trek? And so I did that to you, and you came up with, what do you know about Star Trek?
Kirk is the captain.
Uh-huh.
I mean, you've told me so many stupid stories.
Well, let's see how much you retained.
Kirk is his captain. He cheated on his captain's test at the end or something by rigging the system.
And why?
Because it was impossible, I think, to win it.
And why was it impossible?
Don't know why it was impossible.
Okay.
I just know it was it was an impossible scenario.
Well, I can explain that one. So like the N7 in Mass Effect, right? That's a elite rank that's achieved after someone has demonstrated that they will be able to make hard decisions, right decisions under extreme circumstances. You want that in your Starfleet captains.
Okay. But if you give them an impossible test, how do you then rank them?
Well, it's impossible in the sense that you're not going to come away with a good outcome. Like you're not going to be able to, you have to do the best you can and accept that you're going to lose people and it's going to suck.
So if it's acceptable, then you win. Ish.
But yeah, Kirk hacked it so that he'd win. He'd get the good outcome.
Okay. So I know that. And then I know later that Patrick Stewart is another captain later.
What's his name?
No,
Think about the Weird Al
Picard?
song. Yes. Good job.
So he's another captain of a different ship, I guess. I thought it was the same ship. But...
It's so you know how like ships, like the USS Hornet, it's not the first Hornet, but it's a Hornet. Same thing.
Okay, so it's got the same name, but it's like an upgraded ship or a newer ship or something.
And what would that name be?
No idea.
We'll come back.
Okay. There are the Spock type people.
Which you came up with earlier.
Vulcan,
yeah.
And then there's the wrinkly head people.
Which ones?
The angry ones that you're usually fighting against, but there's I think a friendly or two around too. They're very war people.
I said the name when I was talking about the knife.
I don't remember.
Klingon,
yeah. Familiar term. Cannot come up with it. They explore the galaxy because they're looking for other sentient life, or
to seek out new life and new civilization.
What is the phrase? To go where man is not.
To boldly go where no man has gone before. I imagine they've changed the no man at this point, but whatever.
Okay. I don't know. So I've heard of Deep Space Nine, but I don't even know what that is.
It's a deep outpost at like the edge of Federation space.
Is this a Patrick Stewart one, or is
it was after?
So it's another captain?
The Next Generation was winding down, yeah.
So it's another captain. I have no idea who that captain is then.
Sisko. He was like the first. Well, okay, so the original Star Trek had a black woman, so like double dipping, Uhura. The Next Generation had Geordie LaForge, who you would know from Reading Rainbow, LeVar Burton. He was like,
why would I know from
the black
Reading
guy?
Rainbow?
Because we watched. You had to have seen Reading Rainbow as a kid.
Maybe in school they showed us something, but I don't.
Oh, honey.
I didn't watch TV.
Oh, honey.
I'm familiar with Reading. Is this the bus thing that?
No, it is nothing to do with the bus.
Oh, I have no idea what Reading Rainbow is.
Oh, honey. Sisko was like a black captain. Holy shit. 90s.
What else do I know?
12 seconds later.
You know more.
I know lots of like little stupid details, but R2-D2 is not in this.
Correct. So I'm probing you on this because you got it at the table. The Spock equivalent in Next Generation. Data. Android guy. And his cat named Spock.
I keep getting like the other series with aliens, Prometheus or something, confused in my head. Or what's
the alien? Like replicants?
Like the guy that gets on the that's on the ship that.
The guy on the ship.
That's got the synthetic. Is it synthetic?
Are you talking Alien?
I think so.
Because there was like the I'm forgetting the actor's name. Ian Holm. And then it was Bishop on Aliens, which you have seen. He didn't see Alien until me.
I get all of these IPs mixed up.
I know.
Yeah, it's a confusing world.
Anyway, so watching the game show and then watching it with you, and just they hold up Jay as an example of like who new Trek is being made for. And I guess we can talk about old Trek versus new Trek now. So this is, I don't know if it's a broader distinction that people use, but it's one that they use of just, you have old Trek, which is original series, TOS, TNG, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, DS9, Voyager, I think is VOY, and maybe Enterprise with Scott Bakula would be considered old Trek. I'm not sure. Your eyes just went so wide. And then
you're just talking at me at this point. I mean, I have nothing.
So they wound it down because the ratings weren't what they used to be. And then J.J. Abrams got it and made the movies of the original series with Kirk and Spock and everybody. The old Trek was very deliberate and we'll talk out things. We'll talk out our problems. We won't just jump into violence as a solution. Cut to new Trek and it's post-Matrix world. So camera shake, lens flare, which was very Abrams, and fighting on top of spaceships instead of using our words. And so that was sort of the start of the new Trek, I think. I'm not in the fandom, so correct me if I'm wrong. Part of their problem with new Trek is watching them talk through like Picard, because Picard has his own TV show now, or he did. I think they wrapped it. Where it's just, they talk about old Trek as being optimistic about the future of humanity and life in general in the universe. Part of that being the decorum of being on the spaceship, where it's sort of space navy, right? Sort of like with Mass Effect, where it's space navy. And then new Trek, you've got like one of the Starfleet admirals or something telling Picard to shut the fuck up about a genocide that he tried to help, or not genocide. The Romulans' planet or star was blowing up and he was trying to evacuate them. The refugee crisis, I guess. And like he did an interview, got steamrolled, and she was telling him to shut the fuck up about something. And then being just like, this is symbolic of the problem with New Trek as a whole. Whereas just they're trying to modernize it and appeal to a broader audience by losing that deliberate, slow nature. Mm-hmm. And prior to this, I'd always thought that like part of why they weren't more explosions in space and fighting and whatever was because of budget. And maybe that was part of it. But, part of it was also just the story they were trying to tell about the world that they were living in. And, I can do slow. Don't get me wrong. Like, 2001, Kubrick, it's my jam. That's absolute torture for you. But, I can do the slow. And you, as much as you don't want to be in that way, are very much more in the tastes of the modern audience, where you need
Except
things
I don't
to happen.
care and I don't want to watch any of it.
True.
So if I have to watch something, I want... And it's not the action. I want to be engaged in a way that my ADHD brain doesn't... Turn off, yeah. And so it's not, I prefer Police Academy to, almost any movie or TV series now. Like, it's...
Police Squad.
Yeah.
Who are you and how did you get in here? I'm the locksmith. And I'm the locksmith.
Because Police Academy's me.
I don't know what Police Academy is, but...
Stupid 80s, whatever. You're talking Naked Gun.
Yeah, I mean...
And Police Squad.
Anything Leslie Nielsen is in, basically. That's what... later.
I was going to say, have you seen Mr. Magoo?
I liked Mr. Magoo. It was okay.
Divorce, babe, divorce.
So, having, Mike and Rich talk about new Trek versus old Trek, and it's like I can gain an appreciation for stuff that maybe I didn't necessarily have when I was younger. Mm-hmm. And it's also been interesting having them revisit their favorite Next Generation episodes, because there were a lot of things in there that I remembered and having deep emotional connection to. So, God, I'm going to cry again. Cannot abide by all this crying. So there's one episode, and I'm sure I'm getting details wrong, where I want to say it was Bones had died recently, the doctor from the original series, and they had Scotty on, the engineer guy, on the Next Generation to talk about stuff. And the thing that was relevant was right after he died, a treatment came online for whatever he died from or something.
Is this in lore or out of...
In lore.
Okay, not the actor.
No, the actor had died, and so they were sort of trying to work it in as a way to sort of remember him. Hanging out with my dad later, because we spent a lot of time hanging out. Him telling me that if it came to it, he did not want to be kept alive on life support, if he was comatose, or don't hold out hope for a cure, quality of life, not quantity of life. I was apparently the only one who knew this. Mm-hmm. My mom didn't know. So, brief version, when his heart stopped suddenly and they resuscitated him for 20 minutes, he was comatose. His brain wasn't great. I don't know why they kept going after 15, but whatever. I think it might have been 23 minutes. Not good. Not good. And then, the next day, crazy fever, 105 degrees, that it was so hard for them to break. I didn't know that my mom didn't know he didn't want to be kept alive in a coma indefinitely. Thankfully, it worked out where there's the week it happened, and then the week after Thursday, he was transitioned out of the ICU, or earlier the week he was transitioned out of the ICU, and his family came in to say their last words or whatever. And then Thursday, the day they showed up, he died. Thankfully, because I guess she would have just kept him on. I don't know. Because I was the only person he told because of that Star Trek episode. Mm-hmm. So there's that. And there's an episode where Picard gets captured by the Romulans, who we talked about at the table. They're sort of like the Vulcans, but took a different path. And they're some of the major enemies in the Next Generation, or antagonists, I'd say. So they have Picard, and they're torturing him to try to get military secrets out of him. And that, I don't remember if it was there's 3 lights and he needed to cave and say there were 4, or if there were 4 lights and he needed to cave and say there were 3, under duress. And this sort of being him refusing to budge and give the interrogator what he wanted on the lights was a way of him, like, I'm not breaking. You are torturing the fuck out of me, but I am not breaking. And, like, after that episode, talking with my dad about it, and I found out all the things he learned in intro psych about, like, Milgram experiment and what people will do. And Zimbardo, I know it's a whatever, but, you know, as far as he knew, it was valid. And so getting all this stuff about conformity and obedience and torture and, you know, having a really interesting, good discussion about that with him. Taking a sec.
All things I did at the campfire with my dad.
True.
Which is a different way.
True. But I guess the difference there is, fuck, I didn't think it was going to be this hard.
So tribbles.
The difference is I can just watch YouTube videos of people talking about it. Which is good, because it has been 25 years. I think the Red Letter Media guys are sort of perfect for this, because they probably have similar interpretations and views as I think my dad would have. It's hard to say. I feel like they are a surrogate for sort of parasocially talking with my dad about Star Trek. Which is weird, but that's part of the legacy I'm left with almost, of just, I know Star Trek was really important for him. And so kind of was important in raising me, because I think some of my ethical moral code does come from Star Trek, like all of the Star Trek I watched. I mean, church, no. We were watching Star Trek, the Church of Trek. And also just like general approach to life of wanting to be curious, inquisitive, deliberate about things instead of just like knee-jerking. Although some things you do knee-jerk for, like fascists. Yeah, especially like them talking about their favorite episodes. You know, it was almost like hearing some of the things my dad might have read into them or found interesting or important or whatever. And I don't know, more like, like more broadly, part of this video was just trying to explore that, because it was burned into my head as something I need to talk about. And something I've learned sort of in relation to Peterson's Rule 9, working through the thoughts for a video, I'm able to move on to a large part. Like talking about my grad school nightmare. I was finally able to at least turn the volume down on a lot of the experience and put it behind me. And I don't know, this has just been an idea that was insisting it get turned into something. And when I bounced the idea off of you as my #1 patron, par excellence, you suggested that like you could sit and talk with me because you came off of a couple rough weeks and you're going into another rough week, but it would be a way for us to sort of chat and stuff. Thinking about more broadly media as an intergenerational thing that we can sort of pass down and interact with in a way that sort of is like interacting with loved ones who've passed, kinda, or like a shared reminiscence or something. I don't know. It's weird. It's an ephemeral, weird thing. Oh, yeah. Pro tip, care of my dad. You can't be disappointed in what directions they take of beloved intellectual property if you're dead. He never got to see what they did with New Trek and the explosions and the cursing. Because my dad, trivia for you, I don't know if he'd be disappointed in me or he would understand, didn't curse was very much against cursing. I think he did it because his father was very coarse and abusive, especially in language. So it was like a choice for him to differentiate himself from his father and not use that sort of language. But yeah, so if you die before they start doing things to your beloved media, you'll never find out. Like, I don't think he was as passionate about Star Wars as he was Star Trek, but, you know, I also grew up on Star Wars. And so he didn't see what Lucas did with all of the, like, revisions and special editions with, like, oh, we're going to add a longer jizz scene because that's what we need.
He would totally own the box set DVD, and he would be watching the old shit over and over.
Well, I mean, we had it on VHS before all those changes were made, and I don't know if my mom got rid of those. They're probably worth money now. One last little thought on this, because I managed to do them out of order, is, you know, on a lot of things, not just Star Trek, but I wish I could talk to him.
I barely knew him, right? I mean, it was...
You met him how many times? Like,
yeah,
the first date, and then...
I mean, being at your house for a couple times, but like actually sitting there to talk to him almost never.
Yeah. Other than the first night.
Yeah.
Which...
Probably don't want to share that one.
But yeah, so I wish I could talk to him about this stuff as an adult, having had more life experiences, and also just getting his perspective on things, because he was a lot of contradictions. Unfortunately, he was probably a single issue voter because he was about guns. And just if I could talk to him and like, because he wouldn't go for Trump.
Think about my dad, yeah.
True. Another single
Traitor.
issue voter.
Well, until traitor.
Yeah. Hopefully he's held that line because a lot of people like walk that back.
No, my dad is.
Done. That's good.
I imagine your dad be the same way.
I don't know if he would have gone for Trump.
At all? Ever?
Yeah. Like, I could see him voting for Bush.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I could also see him voting for Obama. Like, he probably would have voted for Obama. I think sort of racism is something that would top out guns rights. And it would, like, the opportunity to vote for the first black president, that would have been huge. Because again, going back to Star Trek, some of the things he loved about it was, like, its very progressive stance on things. I've said publicly they're from Michigan. My parents are from Michigan. And I don't know how it is these days, but it was pretty bad in, like, the 60s, 70s. The place he moved to with my mom, very chill, very mixed cultures, and just vibing. Or at least more so than the rest of the country. And he loved that about the state and the city. Absolutely loved it. That there wasn't, like, segregated housing and everything that comes from that people got along, that there wasn't this baked-in racism into almost every interaction. And I think maybe part of that is sort of feeling like an outsider with the Tourette's, where, you know, it's something he can't control, but I keep doing the present tense, he was ostracized for rigorously and judged for and X, Y, and Z about. So on some level he could relate. While I know he would tend to vote Republican, at least for guns rights stuff, you know, he did have a lot of progressive views, like things that I know, but also can infer based on Star Trek. So, yeah, this was unscripted. So it was a lot of random thoughts being pieced together on the fly, other than rough little notes I had for things I wanted to make sure I talked about. And just, I don't know, food for thought on the value of media as, I don't know, like a...
Well, remembering,
reminiscence. I wanted to say mourning, but that's not the term I'm looking for. There's like some sort of interaction with the dead ritual word that I'm missing of just a way to sort of have something with my dad, even if it is parasocially through others. I don't consider myself a Trekkie. It's not my thing, even though it is something I've absorbed a lot of. It is interesting, especially now, to go back through and revisit big episodes that it'd be nice to have my dad to talk about, but as a surrogate, I've got Red Letter Media or other content creators, I'm sure. But they're very much of the old generation of wanting the slow, deliberate, and not the super fast action and huge space battle, blah, 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 that are now ripping off Mass Effect to some level. Thank you, Rich Evans, for spotting that. Cherish the time you have with your loved ones, because you never know when it'll end. And also let them know your end-of-life plans, please. So it's not falling on your kid to advocate for you. Anyways, so that was this. Next video will be Beyond Order Rule 8. Try to make one room in your home as beautiful as possible. And it's great advice that fully Petersons up to the fullest extent. I guess I can throw in at the back here that it's also, writing has been painful, literally, because of this thing, whatever it is. I got a trigger point injection, which seems to have done fuck all. Have a message out to the pain doctor to see what other options there are. So I'm working on it. It's coming. It's coming. Unless one of you wants to buy me that like weird alien space jockey desk where I can write reclined. I think it's what, like 10 grand? Yeah. That's why I don't have one. If someone wants to buy it for me, and get your videos quicker. You stinky boy. So that was this. Video coming as soon as we can, and yeah, until next time. Bye. Bye.